Well, every day is a school day. This is one that we've never ever seen anything like this before. So quite an interesting one. Car's been to, I believe, 2 other garages, and it keeps getting through crank sensors. So what happens is customer can drive around town absolutely fine and no issues with crank sensors failing or anything like that. As soon as he goes on the motorway and hits 70 mile an hour, boom, engine cuts out, crank sensor dies. Now it's been to 2 other garages and they've just stuck crank sensors on, and then it's been running fine, and then he's gone on the motorway, had exactly the same issue. So it's been recovered into us, non-runner. We've had a look at it. Obviously we've seen that there's no signal to the crank sensor, so we've stripped it down, we've got the crank sensor out, and this is what we found. Crank sensor completely melted. Now we spoke to one of the previous garages who's done it, and they said they had exactly the same thing. Crank sensor was completely melted. Now if you look at the crank sensor, it looks like it's melted from the outside rather than the inside. So there's no damage to, it's not like it's swollen up, and all the wires are okay, so it's not like the wires are shorted. And then if you look on the plug, I'm just trying to hold the torch, that's started to singe there, but it's not singed on the inside. And the pins all look okay. So then, obviously this crank sensor is on the inlet side, so it's the cold side. So then we're scratching our heads thinking, where's this coming from? Did a bit of digging. Obviously we've not heard this car run, so we didn't know what it sounded like or anything. Done a bit more digging, and we found that there's a bit of a blow coming from the DPF. Now, if you look at the DPF, you'll see why. So this is what we found when we took the DPF off. A great big hole in it. Honestly, never seen that before, ever. And what's happening there is the DPF will sit, that hole will go there, where you can see where all the melted metal is, and it's burnt through the protective shield on the back of the gearbox. And then basically when the car was going into regen, all the hot gases are getting sent straight into the bell housing and recirculated all the way around the bell housing. So every single hole or fitting on the bell housing has got soot coming out of it. You can see it singed the pipe there as the hot gases have been coming out. And then you look on the under tray, that's all melted as well. And then the crank sensor sits right at the top of the gearbox and mounts into the gearbox into the bell housing. So that's the reason why it keeps getting melted. So now we're going to have to replace the DPF, and hopefully that's the end of the multiple crank sensors that the customer has to keep replacing.